Hi, and welcome to Quilting with Lori. Today I want to share with you how I'm going to make a bag that's going to go with this coat that I made last week. And I will link the video to this coat that I did last week. This was from an old vintage quilt, and I lined it and put it together. And I'm going to make a bag to go with this quilt because I had leftover pieces of fabric from the vintage quilt that I want to use. So let's see how I'm going to do this. So here's the bag I'm going to make. It's called a spool bag. Although the pattern has you go ahead and use their template to make the beautiful spools, I'm just going to use the bag pattern itself and cut out. In fact, I've already cut out the pieces. This is the front and back, and this is the bottom placed on the fold. I went ahead and duplicated those on paper. For this pattern, she does ask that you add the 1/4-inch seam allowance, which I did all the way around. So I've gone ahead and cut out my fronts. So I have a front and a back, which are identical. I've cut out the linings, front and back. And I've cut out the batting, front and back, because I am going to quilt this. And give it some nice stability. This is the bottom of the purse, the linings or the lining and the batting. And I will again quilt the bottom. I do want a pocket in mine, and she doesn't actually have a pocket pattern, but I went ahead and created that. Let me show you how in a minute, I'll show you how I'm going to do that. But I also have pulled some purse handles that I had in my stash. I think I'm going to go with these clear ones for this because this pink doesn't quite match. So I think I'm going to use these clear handles and some kind of a tab that I will use to sew these handles onto the bag. And then, of course, you do need to have some sort of a bias that you're going to use to sew all the way around and finish the top of the quilt, or the top of the bag. For those of you who might be interested in this pattern, I bought this at Paducah this past April when we were there at the National Quilt Show. It was really fun at the AQS show. This is designed by Jin Hee Kim. She had a booth there at the show, and she had a lot of wonderful patterns and purses that she had made up, and I decided I wanted to try this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put this purse together. I will eventually use the template and create some of these wonderful spools and make the actual spool bag. But for today, we're just going to use the remnants of this vintage quilt and make up a bag that way. For the pocket, I just kind of measured the width of my purse to see how big the pocket could be. And I cut out 2 pieces. I sewed them together on all 3 sides. I did turn it over and about 1/4 inch and stitched it down. And then I took it to the machine and I stitched it. I flipped it over another inch or so and sewed it down again. What I think I'm going to do before I attach this to the lining is just top stitch along the edge of this, the upper edge, just to give it a little bit more stability. And then I will top stitch the pocket to the inside lining before I put the lining together. And then I will have a pocket in my purse. I've brought the camera over here to my sewing machine. I have pinned the quilt, the vintage quilt top of the purse to the batting, and I'm going to quilt it now. I did attach my walking foot. I did attach this little guide here. I have it set at about 1.5 inches or maybe almost 2 inches, but I'm just going to simply stitch guides diagonally along this quilt or along the front of the purse to quilt it together. So as you can see here, I stitched one line of stitching right here, and then my guide right here is going to follow that line as I continue stitching across the front of the purse. So I'm following the guide along that first row of stitching. Just very simple, nothing fancy. I've done all of the stitching and on diagonal rows that way. Now I'm going to start diagonally in a crosshatch. So I'm going to start over toward this end of, I think I'm low on thread here. So I'm just going to stitch here. And then I am going to move it over where I'm following my guide. You probably can't see my guide from where the camera is right now, but my guide is right here, and it's going to follow along on that line, and I'm going to start stitching here, and I'm producing crosshatches now. There's nothing perfect and even about it. I'm just enjoying doing it. So here we see some crosshatches, and I'm going to continue doing that all the way across the purse, front and back. Wow, did I have some issues with a lot of lint from last week's project where I made that coat. So there was a ton of junk in there that I had to get rid of. So I had to remove the top of this, the needle plate. I removed the bobbin case itself. I cleaned everything. I simply like to use a pipe cleaner. It just grabs onto things and pulls it all out. So now, and I also cleaned the bottom of the plate. So now that I have everything cleaned, I can go ahead and put it all back together and continue quilting my purse. I am working on the bottom of the bag now. I'm quilting the bottom. I'm just doing these in straight rows, using that guide again. I did find that I keep checking the camera to make sure that y'all can see what I'm quilting, and each time I do that, I get curvy lines because I'm not watching my guide. Whenever you use the guides with the walking foot, this piece right over here, your eye should be on the guide as you're sewing and nowhere else. If it wanders, then your lines will not be straight, as you can see on some of this. I've finished my quilting on the two fronts, and it's a crosshatch as well as the bottom. And now I'm just going to go around and trim away any of that excess batting that I don't need eating up some of the seam allowance. I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that up. And then I am going to start piecing this together. For the bag, it's put together in an interesting way. We're going to attach the bottom to the bottom of one of the sides, the front or the back. It doesn't matter which you start with. So I have used my clips. I'll start sewing here, and I'll use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, or actually a 1/4 inch seam allowance, all the way around and stop at that point. And then I will attach this side to the opposite side of the bag and get that sewn, and then we'll sew up the sides. So let me sew this first. I'll show you what it looks like. There is a lot of bulk in this seam, as you can see. So you have to make sure you have a heavy-duty needle in your machine and take it very slow. But I've gone ahead and stitched all the way around, as you can see there, and I've stopped at a 1/4 inch on this side and on this side. Now I'm going to attach the bag right sides together on the other side, and I will get them all pinned again and stitch from here all the way around to this 1/4 inch seam allowance there. And then the last thing we'll do is actually sew up the sides. Let me show you that. The bag bottom is sewn to the two bag tops. And now all I need to do is stitch up each side to finish the seam. So I'll stitch up that side, and I'll stitch up from the seam here all the way to the top. Then we're going to work on the lining. And the lining is basically made the same way, except that there is no batting, so it's much easier to work with. I finished my bag. It is ready to go. I did stitch it from the top to the point as I did those side seams because it was just so bulky down there. And so it is now ready to go. It's got its bottom on, and it's ready for the lining to get put inside. Before I can do that, I needed to attach my pocket. And as I showed you earlier, it's just a simple patch pocket. I did go ahead and stitch it down to the a lining across the top there. I'm leaving this part open. Now I need to secure the other 3 sides to the lining. So I'm going to take it back and top stitch this, tack it real well there, and then my pocket will be in my lining. Then I'm going to sew the lining together the same as we sewed the purse itself. My lining is sewn, ready to go. Now I'm going to put it inside of my bag. I'm going to use these binder clips here to clip everything up to the seam allowance. The lining is inside. I have it pinned around the outer edge. And now I want to pin my bias binding. This is what I'm going to pin on here next, all the way around, and get it stitched onto this entire top to finish the edge of the purse. I had wanted to attach these handles. I put some little handles there that I would sew to the bag. However, the width of this is not wide enough for that purse, and I never really saw that until I actually got to the point where I was putting them on. So I created my own handle here. I simply cut a 2-inch wide by about a 20-inch long. Let me see if I can get most of it on here. I cut that out of the vintage fabric, and I cut it from the part that did have batting in it, and I simply folded it on itself on the inside and zigzagged down the center until I got to these ovals. I created some ovals on each side, and then I went around and I zigzagged around the outside edges, as you can see here. And so that is what, and I will stitch them down. I've got them pinned on here right now, but I will stitch them on to the bag securely so that I will have some handles that will work perfectly for my bag. Got the binding all pinned on there. I'm going to hand stitch that to the inside and get all of the binding on. I just have to finish this last handle and do that stitching. Get these handles stitched on, and my bag will be done. Can't wait to show it to you. The bag is done. I have finished it. This is the bottom. I do need to press this yet so that lays nicer. But I have my front handles on and my back handles are on. It is lined. It has a pocket. And it's a wonderful little bag. I could put a magnetic snap here. I just haven't done that yet. But the bag is done. I love it, and it will go with my coat. Now, I still have this left over. So I have some bits and pieces of that quilt. I'm sure there's other things that I could make with it. I'm not going to toss it yet. I'll see what else I can do to use up as much of that vintage quilt as possible. What might be fun are some little tiny bags that I could use inside of the purse, you know, a coin purse, something, a wallet for my credit cards, etc. So there's a lot of different things I could do with this. Another thing I could do is maybe even make a stuffed pumpkin. The fall season is coming, and although this is a very pretty pinks and blues and pastels, it might make a fun pumpkin shape as well. I could stuff it and make a pumpkin. So we'll see. You might see some more clips of videos of things that I've made using this vintage quilt. And I'm really happy to have finished the bag and the coat itself, and I'm looking forward to using them this fall. Thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget to check out the video from last week where I showed you how to make the coat that goes with this bag, and I'll have that linked below. All of my links that I do have in the description box below can also be found out on my website, quiltingwithlori.com, and go to my blog, and you can find all of the video clips in the description, or in the blogs, excuse me, there. You can also find any PDFs that I might attach with any of my videos. So if you're not able to access the description box below the YouTube videos, just go to my website and you can grab the things that you need right from there. So here is the coat with the purse. Got the purse there, and I did put the sleeve inside the purse itself there, but I just wanted to hang it there and allow you to see the side of the purse. It's a good size purse. It's really going to hold a lot, and I'm looking forward to making some additional little bags that will go inside the purse, a wallet, a coin purse, etc. And I do need to get my button on my jacket. I haven't done that yet as well. I've got to get the button on there and get a snap on my bag, and then everything is finished. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget to check out my website, quiltingwithlori.com. You can find all of my videos and any PDFs, etc., that are in my on my YouTube channel. They're also on the blog in my Quilting with Lori website. So if you're not able to access the description box below for links that I share with you, don't hesitate to go out to my website, quiltingwithlori.com, and you can go to my blog that corresponds to the video and get any links, get any PDFs that I might have, etc. So thank you so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the content that I'm providing. If you do, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I love to read the comments from my viewers. So until next week, I wish everybody a happy week and happy quilting.